What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be taking a look over here at the altcoin market and, of course, briefly touching on the Bitcoin price chart. But right now, with the altcoin market, with where it's at a super critical level right now. Whether we're looking at total 3 or total 2 or total 3, excluding all of the stable coins, we can clearly see all of them have gotten back to the retracement levels. This, of course, is one of the exciting times, but for people who watch my channel and know me, when it comes to retracement levels, it's also that fingernail biting time. Retracement levels tend to do one of two things. And especially over here in the cryptocurrency market with that 702 retracement level, where we can see rejections happen from, whether it's the altcoin market, or like we saw with Bitcoin back in 2021, or like we saw with Bitcoin back in 2018. So being right here definitely has that fingernail biting moments because, well, it could be a rejection level. But what can also happen? Just like you see in the intro, right? That can be the thing that gets the market going into expansion. We've definitely been waiting quite a while for this structure to play out over here in the altcoin market. It looks pretty progressed along to me. Like we've really gotten ourselves worked out in here. And the next thing to look for, of course, is to see us get through there. But then, of course, our big mamma jamma is way up there at the top to take out the higher time frame retracement level. But structurally, it looks like if we're going to take the stab at it, it looks like we're getting pretty close. The things that we've been talking about have been things that have kind of been like just missing right here at the end. I recently put out a newsletter over here on Substack where we're talking about a lot of the things that are very similar right now to what they were like back in 2021. If you watch the YouTube channel, if you've watched Markets in the Morning, you've no question heard this a million times that the price action that we're exhibiting here has been very similar to that of like January and February of 2021, whether it's what the altcoin market was doing, where it peaks at the retracement levels in here for both of these times, correction structures, on-chain behavior signatures that happened in here. We've shown those on the channel multiple times and in the newsletter. The GameStop euphoria showing back up at the same time as it did back in that same period. And then, of course, like we've seen even celebrities showing up. The only element that has been missing has been the really big surprise to the market that has happened in here. We haven't seemed to have gotten one yet. That surprise at that moment is what sent crypto into expansion. And to see how crazy that really was, we can look back to 2021. That news of Tesla adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet happens right there on February 8th, 2021. Where is the altcoin market on February 8th of 2021? And we can see right here, that is the break of the 702 Fibonacci retracement level from the entire bear that took place right in here. It happens on that day as that news hits. However, we had not expanded with the market just yet, and still wondering, will we end up getting something similar like that right now to send it into actual expansion? Because we know we haven't. We know that yesterday, Canada was the first G7 nation to cut interest rates. Let's just enjoy the moment for a bit, said Governor Tiff Macklem at a press conference after announcing the central bank had reduced rates to 4.75% from 5%, the first cut in 4 years. Then this morning, the European Central Bank, or the ECB, cuts interest rates for the first time since 2019. It takes a central bank's key rate to 3.75%, down from a record 4%, where it has been since September of 2023. This, of course, brings a little bit of optimism to retail traders that the Fed is going to end up cutting. Right now, it's priced at a 100% probability that the Fed will not be cutting, and at a 99.9% probability that they will remain paused come next Wednesday's meeting. But optimism of rate cuts, of course, is returning. We, of course, have gone through what happens to markets when rate cuts do occur after a hiking and pause cycle. The last 3 times we went through a pause and then a cut was the dot-com bubble pop. The market crashed. The next was the great financial crisis and a pause, market new high, cuts began, great financial crisis. Then it was in 2019, pause, cuts began, and then eventually we go into the C19 crash. So our 3 data points over the last 25 years to look at have indicated that anytime we get those rate cuts, they end up being terribly, terribly bad. However, other things that we have seen in here is that when those rate cuts have began, you can get a little bit of a rally of optimism that things are going to be okay before things get really, really bad. So what could the surprise be? I have no clue. It's usually going to be something that the market just doesn't see coming. People often try to predict what black swans are going to be, but by definition, black swans are impossible to predict because they are a complete surprise. A lot of times these things are the same thing. It's just a surprise that shows up into the market that it didn't expect. Like this one back in here, this is Tesla adding Bitcoin to its balance sheet. The market did not anticipate that being the case. Surprise, something happened. I mean, would that match the narrative? There's 100% probability priced in here that the Fed is not going to cut, and then they just magically cut, maybe, but it seems a little too obvious to me. Either way, we are starting to see some cuts emerge. We do tend to see some rallies of optimism that happen around that tend to be short-lived. I've written about that. I've making videos about that. We've talked about that for almost a year now. You go into the pause. Things are typically okay during the pause. You get a cut, and then markets can rally on optimism of the cut before things end up turning around. So do we see something like that? Do we see things get incredibly exciting? Maybe. Not really going to try to predict that, that the Fed is going to cut and that's going to be a surprise. But it is certainly interesting to see just in the last 2 days, the Bank of Canada did a cut and now the European Central Bank has done a cut. And meanwhile, we're back at these retracement levels, fighting with all of our might to see if we're going to be able to get through here and still just waiting to see what that answer can be. Fortunately, we have somebody doing something. We have a brand new all-time high over here on Binance Coin. Now, the reason why that's so fascinating is you can go here through all the top coins throughout the cryptocurrency market that sit up here with large market caps. This is our first one from the top 20 to be able to do such a thing. Whether you hold Binance Coin, don't hold Binance Coin, it sure increases that like, oh boy, are we actually going to do it when we finally have our first big altcoin to actually be able to set a new all-time high above 2021. Still, we haven't gone into expansion, but it definitely increases the optimism of it. And so as we sit right here, just kind of talking about being at this particular moment, this is where people will make decisions because this can be make or break. This is not typically the place where traders are going to long the market here. This is where traders will sell the market and look for it to be able to get into actual expansion right in here. I think it's important to talk about that because hopefully it does break out. Hopefully it does get going. Hopefully we have euphoria, excitement, and everything is rocking and rolling and a really good time. However, these are also the places where things can go terribly, terribly wrong, which is what we were talking about all through March and April. And so a defense play that traders will do is to sell out of this region and let the market prove itself that it is going to go off into expansion from right here. This is nothing new. This is the same stuff I have said since the early days of having this YouTube channel and even back here in March and April. The difference was the market was high out of its mind on dopamine in March and April that it didn't really listen, that people leverage long the heck out of the top, and then now we've seen them just leverage shorting down here at the bottom. But now we're getting to an area of interest on it's like, okay, here we go. Can we either go into expansion or are we going to find problems that happen right in here? Fortunately, the structure looks great. And we have a major altcoin who has already taken out that range and set a new all-time high. But these are typical normal things we're always going to talk about when we get back to retracement levels. And anybody who has watched this channel since day one knows we're going to do it. When we get back to them, that's where we're going to say, here we go, make or break. Fortunately, we look pretty good, and we have all those things that have lined up identically to what we've had last time we went into expansion. The only thing is that we know when we went into expansion here, it came with a surprise. And so the thing we're having to sit here and say is a surprise going to show up? I don't know. Are we going to get that rando surprise to show up that just so happens to do magical unicorn fairy dust, puppet masters pulling the puppet strings, God, or a simulation to crack it through? I don't know. But we're certainly lined up for it. We just haven't had it. And it's just the most bizarre thing to sit here and say, hey, look, we have followed everything absolutely precisely when it comes to on-chain data, when it comes to altcoin market behavior, when it comes to retail behavior with GameStop, when it comes to celebrities showing up in here. All these things have happened perfectly. The only thing we're missing is that one magical rando catalyst to show up out of nowhere that nobody could have expected. And so it's a weird position to come on here and be like, hey, we're going to expand because I have this deep connection with the universe to know that a secret random event is going to show up and that's going to be our catalyst. And none of you are expecting it. And none of us know what it is, but it's going to show up because that's how it all played out. But as crazy as it is, that's what we're lined up for. We just have to still remain on edge until something like that shows up and proves the expansion to come in here. As of right now, we sit right at the retracement levels. These are make or break moments. And hopefully, fingers crossed, something shows up to propel it to get it to go through. But every day when I look at these charts, I definitely don't come in here and look at them and say, I'm FOMOing out of my mind right now. I definitely come on here and say, man, I see exactly where we're at. We are at the spot. We are at the spot that causes problems like crazy, and problems like crazy. But it's also that area that can send markets into expansion. And for all the OG 22 and a half centers from 2020, getting through that into expansion. And well, like the intro shows, getting into expansion. We're right there, but it's definitely time to be kind of like watching it like a hawk for problems to like start emerging. And like a problem in here likely would be is if we get in here and then we just kind of waddle down in here and then start making a move like that. That's typically the type of move you make before you're going to continue going down even further after that. And well, especially at this point of where we're at, we would think we'd still just continuing holding these lows and just continue marching up, even if we did start to kind of pull back, still continue to march up and just continue maintaining these lows in here to try to work our way up into an actual expansion. So we have things to look at to be like, okay, things are kind of starting to not look right. And that especially be if we start kind of drifting back down below those lows right there. But to look again at another optimistic thing, like as we see Binance coin getting into that brand new all-time high, that we've seen the total market cap of crypto slowly creeping out of them all right here, right now. So I know we've got all the things of being like, bite the fingernails. Here's the things we look at if things go wrong. Here's the things we look at if things go right. That's how it is when we're back at the retracement levels. But if you want to know that marker of where it's like understanding my psychology when I come onto the YouTube channel, right? It's like reflect back to March and April, me being a worry wart as we're back at the retracement levels. We do the big crash. It's like, oh, wait, okay, double tap, bull flag, breakout, backtest, V bottom. I'm going to stab at it. I'm going for it. Grab it. Now we get back to the retracement levels again. Now it's like, okay, sell, buy, okay, careful. But if we can get through here, boom, let's go. And we'll then get to the point where it's like, all right, now we're back. Expansion. And then hopefully a good time. But for those who are going through this for their first time, I was here making YouTube videos and writing tweets the day that the altcoin market was breaking through the 702 retracement back in 2021. You firsthand got to witness the retracement levels reject back there in March. But for many, they have not witnessed what it's like when they get broken through. It is always a stress when we get back to them. But if we can get through, that is where miracles are made. So we'll keep our eyes on it. We'll watch it every day. I'm over here watching it like a hawk, thinking, oh my gosh, it's the moment of truth. And I cheer for everybody's sake that we do get through, but we'll keep watching it every day like a hawk now that we're back at the really interesting level in here. And maybe, just maybe, that major surprise shows up in the market that nobody's expecting and comes out of left field, because that is the magical unicorn fairy dust that showed up in 2021. As Total 3 was back at the 702. That somehow, some way, the 3 days prior to Elon Musk and Tesla announcing they had added Bitcoin to their balance sheet, which sent the market into expansion, were the 3 days it was knocking on 702's door, and that was the escape. And then the rest was history. So if there was a time to be paying attention to markets and what they end up doing, right now is the time. And you better believe it, I'm watching like a hawk. And for those who are watching their favorite altcoins, whether that's the XRP price chart, we've gone through it a million times. I've shown the data for it a million times. Doesn't matter what your favorite altcoin is, whether it's XRP or if it's Ethereum, Solana, Polkadot, Avalanche, whatever. This market tends to move together. My most recent video on that is from a month ago. It's a 44-minute video in there, advancing ahead on XRP price chart timing with Bitcoin, altcoin, and XRP cycles. I go through the presentation that I delivered there in person in Australia and really show all that behavior of how they all go together. The big question is the percentage returns on each of them, right? And then we can all argue over what matters beyond that. I've gone through with the data on user activity levels, developer activity levels, all that stuff. You're welcome to disagree with that data all you want. That's fine. But in the end, they do all tend to go up together. It's in the best interest of every coin in the market to see expansion happen, because when it does, that's when everything tends to move together. So XRP holders, that's what you're looking for. Bitcoin holders, whatever, everybody. We're in it together. Whether or not you scream at each other on Twitter or not on who has the best coin and who has the dingus coin, it doesn't matter. We are literally all in this together, and this is the moment. So if there's a time for something crazy to show up out of left field, out of the norm, and just surprise the market, we're really getting close to that, at least based on what we have seen before. If you want to check out my most recent newsletter, I do show all those comparisons of narratives and charts and celebrities that were just like in 2021, where we are right now. It's over here on blockchainbacker.substack.com. Of course, you can check out my website over here, which is bcbacker.com, where I have a course with over 40 videos and 11 hours of content teaching you how to set up your own charts and your own indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro. While also teaching you things like Elliott wave theory and the historical behavior of the market, and a lot of other research and crowd behavior, emotional management, and downloadable PDF supplemental data for your supplemental charts and information to be complementary to a lot of the sections in here. There are links down here in the description of this video and all of my videos to bcbacker.com and to blockchainbacker.substack.com. Otherwise, guys, I hope that you're having a wonderful week. We're getting near the end of the week. I'll check in with you guys tomorrow, and otherwise have a fantastic day. That's going to be it for this one. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.